All right, welcome everybody to the jam session. Today is June the 6th. You will probably notice that I am living and in front of you and not dead, which is a good sign. That just means that I survived my century. We do have a couple people actually with us today, so let's go ahead and if Debbie, if you want to go ahead and unmute yourself and maybe even turn your video on, you can introduce yourself to everybody, just so we get an idea of who you are. I think you successfully unmuted yourself, Debbie.
I did.
Wonderful. Why don't you? This is actually we're still new to actually getting people on the jam session. So why don't you just give a quick little intro of yourself and what your business is, and then we'll dive into the jam session.
We have an interior design. Well, we don't. We have an interior design business, but we also have a software business that we sell graphic design software to interior designers. So that's what we do and why we use PlusThis and Infusionsoft.
Great. That sounds cool. Well, I'm sure you have some good questions. So let me go through my little presentation for everybody else, and then we will flip back and answer whatever questions you may have. So I'm going to go ahead and unmute you again, and then we'll go back to questions in a second. For those of you that are joining us just via the view link, or for those of you that are watching the replay, I'm actually going to turn on my screen here, and I prepared this time, so you don't have to wait awkwardly while I do it. Today's jam session is brought to you by Unscented Baby Wipes, which I will explain later. But Unscented Baby Wipes keeping bike commuters clean and non-smelly since 1997. I also wanted to take a little bit more time and emphasize the fact that I'm alive and not dead, meaning that I did survive the century last week. Although it's interesting to me, there are very few people on the jam session today. We don't have any viewers as of this time, so maybe people just assumed that I was going to die, and so they're not here. Anyway, we'll go ahead and move on. For those who do not know me or who are not familiar with my exploits over the past few years, my name's Brett, and if you look in that picture, I'm the guy on the right. I guess there's not that much to tie me to that in terms of my face now. My hair was a lot shorter then, and I didn't have any facial hair. I guess the glasses are the same, so maybe you can connect me there. Anyway, I worked at Infusionsoft way back in the early days for a number of years, and was instrumental in starting to build some of the implementation teams and some of the support teams there. Then I broke off in 2008. I actually left and came back several times to Infusionsoft. Just couldn't. They couldn't get enough of me. I worked as an ICC for several years. Including such things as running, teaching people to use Infusionsoft, and I actually ran Infusionsoft for an organization. And then I worked for 6th Division for 2 years, was one of the founding members of 6th Division, and then I worked for them for 2 years, and now I've moved over to Rocket and bring my expertise to PlusThis and just help with implementation and training and stuff like that. By the way, I will also say, for those of you that are viewing this, just using the YouTube play link or whatever, if you go back to plusthis.com/jam and click on the join the jam session link, that will actually allow you to join the jam session itself, and then maybe we can listen to you talk. Which, if you'd like to do that, I guess you're welcome to do so. So let's talk about today. A word from our sponsor. So Unscented Baby Wipes. Given that I survived my century, that means I still have to come to work every day, and I've decided to commute down from my house up in La Jolla down to downtown San Diego. And I'm doing it via my bike, which I'll point to a little bit later during the jam session. And what I found is using these unscented baby wipes when I get to my office helps to keep me clean and non-smelly, which I don't really. There's nobody else in this particular office, but the people in the offices next door, I'm sure, appreciate me not stenching up the place. So today's Russian word, which, if you are not aware or are confused by the fact that I do a Russian word today, I lived in Ukraine and Russia for a number of years, and so I learned Russian, and then I came back and actually majored in Russian in college. So I speak Russian, and in this industry there's not a whole lot of use for it. So I've decided to start teaching people Russian one word at a time via my jam session. So if for no other reason, people may start joining these jam sessions just to learn Russian. But the word for today is zhivoy. That crazy-looking double K looking letter at the beginning is zh. It's like a ZH. So zhivoy, which means living or alive. I guess I spelled it wrong. That says zhivoy. Anyway, the word was supposed to be zhivoy. Anyway, that's an epic fail. Apparently I didn't learn enough when I was in college. Okay, moving on. So we have some really exciting things that I want to talk about for today. We got some cool new stuff coming in the pipeline for SMS. So that'll be exciting. It'll probably be done by the end of the month-ish. But Todd's working on it right now. So in fact, I'm not even sure that I'm supposed to broadcast this, but there's not a ton of you on here. So those of you that came get the benefit of being sort of the part of the early crowd that gets to know about this. So for our SMS feature, we're adding some functionality, including the ability to use SMS in the UK, as well as some more functionality for SMS broadcasting for Blast. As you may know, our SMS feature is not meant for large-scale blasting, but we will be allowing some of that functionality. And then for an additional cost, you'll also be able to buy your own phone number, set your own phone number, and then have the replies, any replies that are sent back to that number, forwarded to a text message to a number that you can specify. Then you can respond to those texts that way. So those are coming. There'll be more information as those things come out, but that's the feature list that I've been given from the development team as to what's being developed right now. So look forward for that, and it will be kind of exciting. Today, I want to go through a couple of things. I did a setup calls with a lot of people this week, so welcome to all of you that are new. We talked a lot about split testing, so I want to go through and do kind of a demo of how to set up a split test in Infusionsoft with PlusThis, and then just talk kind of about some of the functionalities there. And then I want to take a stab at explaining the cycler as well. The cycler is one of probably the least understood. Well, it's not the least understood necessarily. It's probably the least easy to understand of all the features, but it can be one of the most powerful. So we'll go through that and make that happen. So let me go ahead and I want to chat with you guys for a second before we dive in. I always lose my mouse. So again, there's the bike that I'm commuting on that brings me here, and here are the wipes that keep me clean in the house that Jack built or whatever. Okay. By the way, a great way to help with cooling down, in addition to being clean, I put them in the fridge so they're cold when I use them. Okay, so let me turn my screen back on, and let's go take a look-see. All right, so we're going to go and jump into PlusThis. First thing I want to talk about is the why these things showed up. I want to talk about split testing. So we're going to go to my.plusthis.com. There's your email, Debbie. Let's jump in here. Okay. So first thing let's talk about is going to be split testing. And actually, what I tend to tell people is there's a lot of setup in Infusionsoft that needs to happen first. So let's talk about the Infusionsoft setup, and then we'll talk about the PlusThis setup. So let's go to an Infusionsoft app, and let's go create our campaign inside Infusionsoft. What needs to happen here? Now, let's just talk for a second, sort of in theory, about what the split test actually is. So when we're split testing something, we have some action that happens, whether it's opting in, clicking a link, buying a product, whatever. And then we have some other action that we want our customers to take, some goal that we're trying to get them to accomplish, whether it's registering for a webinar, purchasing another product, requesting a free consultation, whatever it is. So there's this gap, right? You have this action that they've taken, and then there's the next action you want them to take. And split testing is all about finding the most optimumist, if you will, the most optimal way to get them from point A to point B. So in Infusionsoft, we have to make sure that we have both point A and point B defined first. And then for the options in between, we just need to define, number one, how many different options are we going to test against? How many different variables are we going to test? And then number two, we need to actually set that up and then make sure that it works. So again, keep that in mind. We got point A, point B, and then we have different routes in between the two that we need to make sure we have set up. So I'm going to go to the campaign builder. In fact, some of you that may have been part of, I may have walked through this. This may be a more understandable explanation of that, using point A and point B and then the routes in between is what I mean. So what we're going to do here, I swear by the time I finish off, either get fired or we sell PlusThis or whatever, I'm going to have so many of these campaigns in here. It's going to be ridiculous. So split test emails. Save. All right. So first thing we have is going to be point A. We'll call this first goal point A. And again, many of you will know that I'm inattentive about spacing and all this kind of stuff. This can represent anything, or it could be represented by anything. So point A can be a link click, it can be a web form fill, it can be a purchase, it can be anything you want, any of these goals, right? We're going to use a web form because that tends to be the first thing that we do. Point A needs to be, every one of these goals needs to have a sequence associated with it. In fact, probably in general, 9.9 times out of 10, you need to have a sequence attached to every goal that you have. Just to, maybe if it's cleaning up tags or whatever it is that you're doing, you need to have some sort of sequence attached to it. So this is going to be point A sequence. Okay? And sometimes you may have initial content that everybody needs to get before you actually split test the different paths. But for now, we're just going to set it up as point A sequence. Then we're going to set up our point B sequence, or our point B goal, we should call it. And I tend to like using, well, this is what we're going to do. Let's say that point B is a purchase. Oh, there's Timory. Great. Sorry, Timory, I'm going to mute you real quick, Timory, so that we don't have issues there. Okay, perfect. All right, so continuing on. This is going to be point B as our purchase. Right, so purchase, we'll call it point B. Okay, and then again, there's going to be a sequence there. And again, what we're doing with a split test is we're trying to find the most optimum way to get from point A to point B. So we could have anywhere from 2 to 200 different options in here. Now, technically, with the way that we're going to set this up, it's always going to be using tag goals. Like that's what Plus is going to use. So when you set up the different paths between point A and point B, they're always going to be tag goals. Okay. So we'll have, let's say 3. I set up 2 for people, but let's just say there's 3. So this will be path 1. This will be path 2. This will be path 3. All right. And then each of the paths, the goals have to actually have sequences. This is what the path actually is. So we'll go through. Path 1, path 2, path 3. Right? Okay, then we're just going to connect everything up, and then we'll drive through. Now, one thing I'll point out as we're doing this is that these paths. I don't know if anybody else has had that issue where the line gets messed up like that, but you just have to be very careful about the way you do this, so you don't drag that line the wrong way. So different paths. The interesting thing about these paths is that it doesn't necessarily, these paths don't necessarily have to be all actions taken inside of Infusionsoft. Okay, so let me explain what I mean by that. You may have, 3 emails that need to go out of path 1, and then there's some other action that they need to take before they buy. So maybe they have to, call somebody before they even can buy, or have to come somewhere before they even buy something. What happens between the starting of each path and the purchase point is not as important. The important thing is we've got point A, we're starting them on paths, on whichever paths, 1, 2, 3, or 4, and then there's point B. So essentially anything that happens between them starting on path 1 and then purchasing is path 1. And anything that happens between them starting path 2 and purchasing, getting to point B, is path 2. Even if some of the actions they take are the same across all the paths, the fact is we're starting them on a different path here. So hopefully I haven't confused people with that. But the idea is we're starting at point A, driving them down a particular path, and then they're just going to go until they get to point B. And once they get to point B, then we're going to figure out which of these ones help the most. Okay? So what we need, technically, from Infusionsoft is a start goal for each one of these. So we're going to say 0, 0, just to put it in the right spot. We'll call it, oh no, we just want 0. I think that's just at the top. 0, we'll do 1, we'll do start, path 1. Okay? So again, for each one of these particular split tests that we do, we need to create these tags because you want the tags to be unique to that particular split test. So 0, 1, start path 2. So I would recommend, as you're doing this, to put like a prefix or something. Like, so maybe this would be split test emails for, for opt-in sequence. So then you would say, instead in the place of where I'm putting 0 or 1, whatever, you would put the specific split test that you're doing, and then put, which path you're starting. Start path 3. Yep. And then we need to create a goal that indicates when they get to point B. Now, point B will be a couple of different things. Point B could be a purchase, at which point we need to go into the sequence to apply the tag, because the tag is what Plusthis is going to use to count up how many people have actually got to point B. So in this instance, we're going to come in here and we'll apply our point B tag inside the sequence afterwards. In some instances, it may just be a tag that you apply, and that will be the goal itself. So this we're going to do 0.2. Reached point B. Okay? We'll create that tag and save. So now what we have set up here is a campaign where someone's going to opt in, then we need a feature in here to split them out between these 3 paths. And then when they get to point B, when they actually purchase that product, it's going to apply that tag to indicate to Plusthis that the person reached point B. Okay? So now we go into Plusthis and we set up our split test emails feature. We've already created the tag, so we're going to say the first sequence we want to start is path 1, the second one is path 2, and the third sequence is going to be path 3. Oh, that was wrong. Right? So as soon as we run this feature, it's going to basically split everybody up evenly between the 3 paths. Then, for conversion, this is going to be reached point B. Okay? So once someone's actually reached point B, that'll indicate conversion. And then we just have to decide, how do we want to pick which of the paths was the most successful? Do we want to do it after a certain number of people reach point B, meaning no matter which path they took, a certain number of people arrive at point B, and then we decide which path was the most successful? Or do we want to just pick a date and time and say, on this date and time, I want you to look back and see, of all the people that got to point B, which path got the most people there? Okay? So I usually tell people just do like 50. And the idea here is you'll take, if you have, say you have 1,000 people on your list and you want to split test, you'll take 100 of them, or maybe 250 of them or something like that, and you'll run them through this process. And then you'll just say, as soon as a certain percent, let's say if we take 100 of them, then we would need to see 25. As soon as 25 people convert, that's a quarter of the people that you send through. Then we want to pick which one is the most successful. And then you want to run everybody else down that. And Plusthis will automatically send everybody down a path that's the most successful based on the split test that you did before. So as soon as it picks a winner, everybody else that goes through that process, so you don't have to go change it and take any of them out. As soon as you do that, you can just run everybody else through it, because that's the way that it'll work. So then we just give it a name. So we'll say this is split test add feature. We'll copy this URL, and like most features in Plusthis, we're going to take this URL, and this is going to turn into an HTTP post inside the sequence for point A. Point A, again, is the launch point for the different paths. And again, this may not be the first thing you do. You may have a couple of emails that you send first, and then you split them out. It doesn't really matter. The point is, inside the sequence for point A is where you're going to drop this HTTP post URL, thusly, back to sequence. And then I usually like to rename these and say start split test, just so that you know what it is. Okay? So now we have this campaign set up. Now all I have to do is fill in content for the rest of point A, all the paths, and then whatever we're going to do for point B. All right? So this is usually a pretty straightforward process for that. And then, oh, okay, perfect. And that's basically the way that works. So let's go now to, where was that here? Let's go now and talk about, and I'll take questions again about all of this stuff. So feel free to type in any questions you have in the question box, or I'll unmute Timmerie and Debbie in a second. We can ask questions. Now I want to talk about the cycler. This one's a little bit more convoluted and complicated. So first thing I want to do, imagine to yourself that you have 3 products. Okay, 3 simple products. You do an online store, and you're selling 3 products. And after somebody buys any of the 3 products, you want to make sure that you upsell everybody on the other 2 products, but not upsell them on products they've already purchased. All right. So I've purchased product A. I want to be upsold on products B and C, unless I've already purchased product B or C, and then I just only want to be upsold on the product that I haven't been upsold on before. So let me show you what you'd have to do inside of Infusionsoft without using plus this in order to make that happen. Correctly, the whole way that you do it. So you go to, I think I have one here, Cycler. Here. Wait for it. Okay, so you can see already. There's if you're familiar with any of the 6 division rules, you can see I'm already breaking rules because not everything fits on the same thing. Let me zoom out here and just kind of indicate to you what this is. My little eagle campaign. So we got product 1, 2, 3, and this is really small because you can't really see. So after they buy product 1, we need to check and see which products have they already purchased, right? So we'll have tags applied or whatever that indicate which products they've actually purchased. So if they have purchased any of the particular products, then we want to put them into one of these particular campaigns. Now the interesting thing here is we have to decide which campaign to put them into first. So there's already some complexity happening here. But then at this point, once we upsell them on this next product, we need to check and make sure which of the products they've been sold, and then sell them the next product as we go up this way. Now, the interesting thing, a lot of people ask, why do you need to have 3 all the way, on all of these? And the point is, you have to be able to check each time to make sure that they haven't already been upsold that. So it may be that they've bought product A, they've already bought product C, and now they just bought product A. So purchase product A, now we need to drive them to purchase product B, and then as soon as they purchase product B, then we need to upsell them on products. We want to make sure we check to know which of the products they've already purchased so that we can not send them stuff if they've already been upsold on that. So we can't just leave one sequence at the end because we have to be able to divert away from it if they have not purchased. Anyway, that's mostly just to show you how complicated this thing can be. Now, what we do with plus this is we create what's called a dynamic library of content. So the other thing that's proper about this is that you have this product A sequence like 12 times in this campaign, which means anytime you want to make updates, you have to go through 12 times and make updates in all the right places. What we're going to do is create a dynamic library of content for each of our products. So we're going to say, I have an upsell sequence for product A, an upsell sequence for product B, and an upsell sequence for product C. And I want to make sure that just this one sequence is the one that we upsell. And by the way, you can insert whatever you want for product A, product B, product C. This could be for any way that you want to use this will still work. So essentially, when they purchase product A, B, or C, what we want to do is have some follow-up content for the purchase, and then we want to have the upsell content. So this literally is our dynamic library of content right here. First of all, can we all just breathe a sigh of relief at how much simpler this is than what we were looking at before? Because really all we need is delivery content and then upsell content, and that's it. That's really all that we need. So what we do is basically when they get delivered product A, we need to have plus this look and see which of the other products have they purchased, and which of the other products do they need to be upsold on, and then just apply the tag of the next available set of content in the line. So it's kind of like having a hopper of content that you can just cycle people through. So they need to see all of the content. So let's go back to plus this and go to the cycler. And let's sort of talk about how this works. The cycler works off of 2 different tags. There's what's called an interest tag, and then there is a start sequence tag. The start sequence tag has 2 functions. It starts the sequence, and it also indicates to plus this later that sequence has already been started, which also means that they have already purchased that product, right? So if this tag has been applied to upsell product B, that means that they've already been upsold product B because the tag's been applied and the sequence has started, okay? So for each one, the other thing too is the interest tag. A lot of times what you can do is have a tag that indicates whether someone purchased or whether someone has not purchased, and then remove it, either apply it or remove it, depending on whether it's a purchased or not purchased tag, when somebody actually purchases. So then you have, so the start sequence tag will start and stop the sequence. That indicates whether someone has been marketed this particular content yet. The interest tag is whether or not they should be marketed this at all. So say, for example, you have categories of purchase products, and they buy within category 1, they need to be upsold everything else in category 1, but not category 2. So maybe you apply a category 1 tag, and then you set up a cycler to run through all the category 1 products. Or in this instance, you can actually set up each individual product as a category. And then when someone purchases that product, you can remove the interest tag for that product so that not only will it skip sequences, upsell sequences for products that's already been upsold, they've already been upsold, but it'll skip sequences for products they've already purchased. Okay, so hopefully you're following me on that, on that particular point. So essentially you'll have an interest for product C. Well, let's set up the whole thing. Interest for product A, and then start product A. And then we'll do a new sequence, interest for product B, and then start product B. And then interest for product C, and then start product C. And the thing here to keep in mind as well is that this doesn't have to be products, it doesn't have to be set up in this particular paradigm. The whole point is, what Plusys is going to do is check on the contact record, do they have this tag? If the answer is yes, then it's going to check, do they have this tag? If the answer is no, it's going to apply that tag and start the sequence. Then the next time this sequence is run, it's going to come through and check, do they have this tag? Yes, because they had it before. Do they have this tag? No. Or sorry, yes, because we applied it before. And if they do have this tag and it's yes, then we're going to skip to the next one because they've already got that. They've already been marketed that particular product. So now we look at the next one. Do they have the product interest product B tag? No, they don't have that tag. So at that point, we skip this entire. We don't even look to see whether the sequence has been started because they don't have the interest tag. We drop down to the next one. Do they have the interest tag? Yes. Do they have the start sequence tag? Yes, they already do. Because we upsold it at some point in the past. So then we've completed, we've gotten to the end. So we can apply a tag at the very end, which just indicates to Plusys. We've already sent them through this entire hopper, so you don't have to worry about it. Then we can also set up a tag that corresponds with the tag that gets applied at the end, which just indicates this has already been run all the way through, so I don't want to run it again. Okay. And then it gives you an HTTP post, just like other features. And then in each one of these sequences, you'll just drop an HTTP post like this, and then it'll run them through the process, as well as inside the actual upsell sequences like this, because that just starts that process over again. Okay. So that's pretty much all that I wanted to cover. I wanted to take a little bit more time and be a little more thorough. Since my jam sessions in the past have only been like 30 minutes, I wanted to take a good chunk of time and do some training. And then we can open it for questions. So I'm going to go ahead and check the questions app, see if there are any questions that have been submitted. It looks like there are not. So I'm going to come to those two of us that are live here and see. Timmery and Debbie, if you have questions, would you go ahead and unmute yourself? And we can just chat through. And feel free, both of you, to unmute yourselves. If we need to have a conversation together, that's fine. All right. Debbie, it sounds like there's some serious static behind you.
I don't know why either. I'm trying to think why there's so much static. There wasn't before. I don't have any background thing running. Is it still doing it?
It's softer now. It's actually diminished quite a bit. It might be a lot of times what can happen is your microphone, if you don't talk into it, it'll automatically turn up like the sensitivity because it thinks that it's trying to catch your voice. So anyway, so you should be fine. So. Okay. Any questions that you have in particular?
Yeah, on Cycler, that looks very interesting. So, because I do have trouble with that, trying to be very careful what I upsell my current customers on. But I'm still, and I was really paying attention. I wasn't doing emails or any other thing when you were showing it. But the interest tag. So, is that a new tag I would create? And how do I guess maybe I missed that part about what that tag was.
No, you're totally fine. That tends to be the hang-up for most people. Let me come back to Plusys. I think that the concept here is one that once you grasp, it's actually quite simple. It's just it takes a second because it's not the way that you would necessarily think.
Right.
So the interest tag, all it does is indicate whether or not that particular sequence should be started at all. As part of this process. So like you have this cycler set up, and it'll say, I have these set up for products, meaning we would apply the interest tags for the products that they do need to be upsold on. You could maybe apply all of those at one time. What I also tend to do is I'll just use one interest tag for multiple products. So maybe I'll just say category A, right? And I might even have one here. You know, I just get like category A tag, and then just run them through all of that. basically set that as the interest tag for all of the different sequences that I want to run, because it may just be that all you care about is whether you have sent them that particular information yet. Because the interest tag is mostly designed when you're doing it in this paradigm with products, where you want to make sure that not only do they only get upsold what they haven't already been upsold, but also what they haven't already purchased. But in most cases, when it's marketing, it's just you just want to upsell. You just want to send them content that they haven't already gotten, and the content that they haven't already gotten tends to just be the content, like it's just where they haven't started the sequences. So you might just create one tag that everybody gets, like customer or prospect or something, and have that be the interest tag for everybody, and then just run them through on the content level. Does that kind of make sense?
I think I'm getting it. I think that because what I do have, when you mentioned something else, it sparked another thing that would really be even more helpful than the product issue. Is like people download on our website, we have the free trial for our software. Mm-hmm. And so then that starts them through a whole campaign where they get several emails, but then say that they purchase, they may start on that another sequence. It stops that campaign but starts them on another campaign because they purchased, but some of the emails are the same in there if they didn't go all the way through. Now, mm-hmm. Some of the people that purchase never were a trial person. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Never got those first emails. So I want to have those two campaigns, and I probably have 4 emails that are the same in both of the campaigns. But some would receive duplicates, but then others would be perfectly fine, and I didn't know how to fix that.
So basically in this instance, yeah, you could set this up with 2 of them, and you would have a tag that would be applied for, actually probably in your instance what you would do is you would have an interest tag applied to everybody that doesn't that doesn't go through the trial, that has those extra emails. Mm-hmm. And then if they go through the trial, you'll remove that tag so that the interest, like it doesn't show as them being interested in that particular segment of the sequence at all, and it'll just move them forward in the process to the next, like to the emails after those 4 that are the same.
But what if they purchased before they got all the emails?
So you're saying that there's a well, yeah, and so you could do it that way. That would actually work fine too. You could basically set up each of the emails.
Okay.
To have their own interest tag, and they'd just be their own sequences, and it would, that might clutter. Actually, you could probably set it up so that it would be just fine. That would basically allow you to indicate for each individual of those 4 emails which ones have they got and which ones haven't they gotten, and then put them in order. And then as people come through, if they've already gotten those emails, then just skip to the next one.
I like it. Okay, now, so Cycler, I would use, in Plus This, I would use Cycler for each instance. Say that I had wanted to do it for a product thing, and wanted to do this one for the emails, for the trial, the downloading our software, where it's really emails I'm trying to make sure they don't get. So it would be 2 different features I would be using of Cycler, right?
Yep. Yeah. So the difference, you create new features of Cycler every time you need to have different criteria within it.
Okay.
Now, you probably, with enough time, you probably could figure out a way to combine them into one. If you configured it right so that the tags didn't get applied until the right point, because, I mean, essentially you could have this point up here just for the emails when they opt in, and then set up a bunch down here for when they purchase, and then just make sure that the tags get applied and removed correctly so that they get put in the right spot. But it probably will be a lot simpler and easier on your mind if you just set up 2.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. Now, do you have, like, if I had a question as I'm going through this, if I didn't quite get it right, or, I thought it's not doing exactly what I want it to, is there a forum or something I can post on for a question?
That's a good question. There's not a forum as of yet. We're debating several different ideas. But if you have questions that you want to drive to us, you can just go to help.plusthis.com and submit. Oh, this is going to take me to my thing. I don't want to show you that. Help.plusthis.com will take you to our help desk.
Okay.
Submit a ticket from there, and I can jump in and help you there. That actually is an interesting question about a forum. We've talked about starting up a Facebook group to allow you guys to kind of support each other. We haven't really moved forward with it. We've had a few people reach out and express interest, but not really enough to drive action. That might be something we may end up doing.
Okay, all right. Well, I definitely will start with the emails first and see if like you said, once I wrap my brain around it, I think that it's very logical. Just naming is a little different.
Yeah. Well, and it's logical, but it's like 2 levels of logical. So you have to like make sure you get through the whole thing in order to make it help it make sense. So this actually is one that took me a little while to really wrap my head around. So we're all in the same boat on this one.
Good. Okay.
Cool. Anything else we're gonna do before?
No, I think I'll start with Cycler first, cool. and then I haven't done the split testing yet, but I think the Cycler would be something I would like first. So I'm gonna eat one bite of the elephant at a time and then move on.
Absolutely, that's very good. Very, very good. Cool. Okay, cool. Timmery, what about you? You got any questions?
Yeah, I have 2. One, I think I know the answer to, but I want to confirm. Did you just create those tags starting with a 0 so that they'd come up in your search first, or is that a specific tag structure that PlusThis requires?
No, PlusThis does not require any tag structure. That's purely a 6-division thing, putting them in the right order. Yeah.
Totally. Got it. Okay, and then... Highly recommended, by the way, but you can do whatever you want. Having all of this is fantastic. Now, where do I find the reporting on it?
Reporting on what? Like, you're talking about Cycler or the split test?
Either. Is there reporting features that go along with either of these?
That is a great question. So for the Cycler, there's not. It's just tags that are being applied, so you can create those reports like on your dashboard in Infusionsoft.
Okay.
So there's not reporting specifically for this. However, for the other feature, for the split test, there's reporting. So if you go down to where you have them set up, you can click on See Report. And I don't know that any of these don't actually have any data in them, so it's going to be kind of boring. But right here, it will show up a little graph that will show you how people have opted in and how you sent them in different ways, and then how many people have converted over time. So there's a little graph that will show you kind of as people go through the process what's going to happen.
Can you show me one more time how you just go to My Features? Is that where you went to find that?
Once you set up the feature, the first thing you'll do sorry, no, not My Feature Library. You'll go to My Features. Once it's been set up and it's all running, then you'll scroll down to the split testing section, and then for whichever of the ones that you want to take a look at, you just click on See Report.
Okay. Thank you.
Cool. So that's how you can do that. Any other questions that come to mind? I know that we're still sort of getting your sea legs here with this. So.
No, I'm just taking it all in, to be honest.
Good. Yeah. That's totally fine. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and let's see. I'm gonna mute you again somewhere real quick. I'm gonna go see if there's any more questions that have come through on the question box. Looks like there are not. So I think we're gonna call it a day. Thanks everybody for coming. To Timmery and Debbie for coming today, and hopefully we'll get more people on the live jam session. We can have more of a conversation style thing going in the future. But today was good. I hope that for those that are watching the recording, I hope you've got some good stuff out of the instruction for both the Cycler and for the split testing. And next week we'll have some more stuff to talk about. I'll probably talk about Smart Links or the GoToWebinar connection or something, just to give some more in-depth training on that. And thanks everybody for supporting me and praying for me so that I survive my century. That's the most important thing. Anyway, we will see you all next week. Thanks for coming.
Thank you.